die, even so in Christ all shall be made alive. There we go. So there's the good news, right? Everything rises or falls on the character of Jesus. Keeping this one promise, it validates all the other promises. If Jesus does not rise from the dead, then he is not an honest man, and you cannot trust the other promises. But since he has risen from the dead, everything that he said is true. Yeah? So we stand on a promise that has been fulfilled. But a promise is only as good as the one who promises. Right? Deb and I had been married just a few years, and we had received a settlement for an accident I was in, and we took that money and we were going to invest it in a piece of property and build a house on it. We bought the property. Then we saw this ad in the newspaper for this guy that could build a house for a certain amount of money. And we went out to this beautiful farm out in the country, and he had this big display of these homes he was building and all this stuff. And we sat down with him and chatted with him for a while. Then he took us out to this house out in the country where he was building a house. There were two that were very similar next to each other. We stood on this unfinished foundation of this one other house. He said, that one I'm just about done with. In fact, you can see the people there. They're just getting ready to move in, and he waved at the people. The people waved back. I stood there on that foundation. I thought, oh, this would be a nice house. This would work on our property. So we contracted with him to build that house. Gave him a little bit of money. We weren't very smart in those days about how those kinds of things should work or how you should protect yourself in those things. And so we gave him the money to start the building, an island internship up in Oregon. And I went through youth camps all over the state of Oregon. While I was gone, Deb was in charge of making sure things were moving along. So I gave her a call and she said, well, he doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot yet. I said, oh, well, he'll probably get started. And pretty soon I get a call. I'm up at a youth camp in Santiam, Oregon, outside of Bend, Oregon. And she said, Dave, you're never going to believe this, but the builder has skipped town. I said, well, what? Yeah, he's left, and he's a con man, and he's conned contractors out of this area for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they don't know where he is. That wasn't real good news. So I came home. When I got home, we took a contract, went down to the sheriff's department, and said, what's the deal? He said, well, but don't count on ever getting anything back, even if we find him. Because by the time we find him, he's also wanted in Arizona. He's also wanted. He went to several states that they found out this guy was wanted in. He had an alias. His name was Gino. If you see Gino, I want to meet him. His name is Gino. But I have a contract. And the sheriff just laughed at me. He says, that doesn't mean anything. Because he's not an honest man. Contract is only as good as the contractor. You know, promise is only as good as the one who promises. And I could shake all day and say, I have a contract, I gave him money, I have a signed contract. It won't do me any good at all, because the character of the man would not allow the fulfillment of the promise. That's why everything that Jesus promised is based on his resurrection, because that's the one promise. You know, there are a lot of people that can die for another person.